Have you ever felt that the more you open up to family, the more complicated things seem to get? After 70, we start to see life through a clearer lens, and one truth stands out. Not every thought needs to be shared. Not every feeling needs to be explained. I used to believe that total honesty brought people closer, but with time, I've learned something even more powerful. Peace often lives in the things we choose not to say. It's not about hiding, it's about protecting your heart, your energy, and your freedom. At this stage of life, you've earned the right to keep certain parts of yourself sacred. In this video, I'm sharing 5 personal lessons, 5 things I believe are best kept to yourself if you want to stay emotionally free and avoid unnecessary stress in your relationships. These aren't about secrets, they're about wisdom. And if you're someone who values peace, dignity, and quiet strength, I think this message will truly speak to you. Stick with me until the end. Number 5 is something most people never talk about, but it can make all the difference in how you move through this beautiful chapter of life. Let's get started. At 72, I sat across from a woman named Evelyn in a quiet tea room tucked into the corner of an old bookstore. The walls were lined with novels that had outlived their authors. The scent of worn paper and Earl Grey lingered in the air. Evelyn held her teacup with both hands, as if the warmth was the only thing grounding her. "I used to think growing older meant becoming invisible," she said. She didn't say it with bitterness. She said it like a discovery. "But now I see it means becoming sacred." And she looked up at me with eyes that had seen love, loss, birth, war, laughter, and a long silence that she was only now beginning to understand. That one sentence stayed with me, not because it was profound, but because it was true. You see, there's a shift that happens, quietly and without warning, when you cross into your 70s. People expect less from you, or sometimes they expect too much. They ask you to relive your past, to tell your secrets, to share your plans, to open your heart, your memories, your wallet, and your wounds. But here's the thing most don't realize. You don't owe anyone the full version of your story, not anymore. In your earlier years, you gave freely, you explained yourself, justified decisions, offered updates on everything from health to finances to regrets. But now is the season of gentle strength. Now is the time to pull inward, not away, but inward. To center yourself in peace. To understand that some truths are not meant for everyone's ears, because they are no longer about them. They're about you. You see, silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. A quiet no is not rude, it's clarity. A private joy is not selfish, it's sacred. And a boundary, no matter how small, is not a wall. It's a door you lock when you need rest. So today I want to invite you into a conversation, not about what to say, but about what not to say. Not out of fear, not out of secrecy, but out of deep, soft wisdom. There are 5 things that I've seen again and again among those who live their later years with grace and calm. 5 things they've learned to keep close, like handwritten letters tucked in a drawer no one else gets to open. And today, I'll share the first 2. Stories, reflections, and choices that will help you protect your peace. Because you've earned it. You've earned the right to close your mouth and open your heart privately. To know that not everything needs an audience to have value. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't owe them an update. You don't owe them your softness if they haven't learned to handle it. This is your life, and these are the choices that protect it. And the next, private choices that protect your peace. The first, your financial picture. It belongs to you first. Meet Nora, age 76. Nora had always been responsible, frugal, quietly strong. When her husband died suddenly, she didn't panic. She grieved deeply, yes, but she also handled the paperwork, the estate, the passwords, the accounts. Every folder, Every figure, every detail. She did it alone. Not because she had to, but because she could. But then one Sunday afternoon, sitting around the kitchen table with her 3 grown children, Nora said something that changed everything. "I've gone through all the finances. I'm happy to share them with you, just so there are no surprises later." She meant it as a gesture of transparency, a gift of trust. What followed, though, was something different. Her oldest son raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure you should be spending this much on the house?" Her daughter brought over a financial advisor the next week, uninvited. Her grandson, sweet as ever, asked what she planned to leave behind. Suddenly, Nora wasn't a matriarch anymore. She was a balance sheet. The lesson in here is, you don't need to explain your choices, especially the ones you make for yourself. Yes, make a will. Yes, designate a power of attorney. Yes, plan ahead. But beyond that, keep it sacred. Because when you hand over the intimate details of your finances to people who haven't lived your sacrifices, you lose control over more than your money. You lose your autonomy. You lose your space. Even with good intentions, people will project their fears, their needs, their assumptions onto your life. They'll second-guess your vacations. They'll analyze your shopping trips. They'll wonder out loud whether you need that subscription, that sweater, that recliner. But your joy is not a math problem. You spent your life building this nest. You don't owe anyone a seat in it. Be wise, be fair, be protected, but also be private. Because financial peace isn't found in spreadsheets. It's found in freedom. 2. Your day-to-day health worries. Speak carefully. Meet Clarence, age 79. Clarence had always been active. He walked 3 miles a day, pruned his rose bushes every spring, grilled dinner on Saturday nights. But lately his back had been bothering him. Just a little. Nothing serious. At Sunday dinner, he mentioned it, just in passing. And by Thursday, his daughter had booked him a physical therapy consultation. His son-in-law had moved the grill to the garage. His grandson offered to take over the yard work. And Clarence, he sat on the porch watching his life being lovingly rearranged around him. "I became a project," he told me later, "not a person." He didn't fault them. He knew they cared. But in that moment, he understood something vital. People protect what they fear will break. And if you give them reason, even a small one, they may try to fix you instead of seeing you. The lesson is here. You know your body. You know what's a real warning sign and what's just your bones having a conversation with time. Of course, if something serious arises, speak up. But don't give away your independence to every little ache, because once you let others believe you're fragile, they'll treat you like you are, even when you're not. And the subtle consequences, they stop inviting you on walks. They hesitate before asking for your help. They talk about you rather than to you. And slowly you lose the life you were still fully capable of living. So, I will talk about a quiet practice to try for you. Each morning ask yourself, do I need help or do I need rest? If you need help, ask. If you need rest, take it quietly, proudly, and without explanation. And if someone asks, how are you feeling? You're allowed to say, I'm listening to my body today. Not because you're hiding, but because you've earned the right to live in your own rhythm. So, Evelyn's words still echo in my mind. I used to think growing older meant becoming invisible, but now I see it means becoming sacred. You don't need to be loud to be strong. You don't need to be open to be honest. You don't need to share everything to be real. Some truths live better in silence. Some peace grows best in privacy. And the most powerful thing you can say after 70 is sometimes nothing at all. The next is emotional boundaries that keep you whole. 3. Family conflicts. Choose silence over sides. Meet Lorraine, age 82. Lorraine's house had always been the gathering place. Birthdays, holidays, Sunday dinners. It was her dining room that held the family together. Her lasagna recipe, legendary. Her hugs, healing. She'd spent years being the one everyone called when they needed to vent, cry, or confess. But one year, just before Thanksgiving, her two sons, Michael and James, got into an argument. It started over something small, a joke maybe, or a forgotten obligation. No one remembered the details, only the storm that followed. Lorraine did what any mother would do. She called one, then the other, tried to bridge the gap, soothe the wounds, and remind them of the love they'd always shared. I said all the right things, she told me, and somehow I still became the enemy. Because when Michael learned she had spoken to James, he said, "So you're taking his side?" And James, he said the same. Suddenly, the woman who had birthed them, raised them, fed them, was no longer neutral ground. She was the middle of the battlefield. Lorraine's heart was heavy, not because they fought, but because they had used her peace as their battleground. And the worst part, neither of them called again. Not for months. Not until well after Christmas. Her home was quiet that year. Too quiet. "I only wanted to help," she whispered through tears. And she had. But sometimes love is not loud. It's not interference. It's restraint. The lesson in here. Silence is not a sign of weakness. It's a shield. It protects your energy. It protects your relationships. It protects the sacred ground between people who need to find their own way. If you find yourself in the crosshairs of family tension, step back. You can still love both sides. You can still pray, hope, and care deeply. But you are not the referee of their emotions. You are not the fixer, and you do not need to trade your peace just to mediate their pain. Try this. When a loved one asks your opinion during a conflict, say, "I trust you'll work through this when you're ready. I love you both." Then breathe and let go, because your heart has held enough. 4. Regrets from the past. Keep the wisdom, not the wound. From my patient journal. Joan, age 81. It was a rainy afternoon, and Joan had come in for her annual visit. She was healthy. Her eyes were bright. But there was something heavy in her voice that day. She spoke about how, as a young woman, she had always wanted to live abroad. Paris, maybe, or Florence. She used to collect postcards and practice French under the covers. "But I got married," she said. "We stayed, built a home, raised 2 kids. I have no regrets." Then she paused, looked away, and added, "Well, maybe just a few." A few nights later, over tea, she mentioned that dream to her daughter. "I always imagined I'd live by the sea in Spain one day," she said, casual, nostalgic, honest. But the next morning, her daughter was distant, quiet, withdrawn. It wasn't until weeks later that Joan learned why. "I guess I just never knew you were so unhappy in the life you had," her daughter finally said. Joan was stunned. "I wasn't unhappy, I was just remembering." So, sometimes what feels like vulnerability to us can feel like rejection to someone else. They hear "I wish I had," and they think, "Wasn't what we gave you enough?" They hear a missed dream, and they see it as a verdict on their existence. And that's the quiet heartbreak of getting older. You begin to understand that not all truths are helpful. Not all honesty heals. The lesson in here: you don't need to rewrite your story, you just need to reframe it. Instead of "I wish I had gone," say, "I've learned so much from the life I chose." Instead of "I regret not taking that chance," say, "Every choice brought me to this moment, and I love who I am today." Because when you share your reflections in gratitude, not grief, your family sees your wisdom, not your wounds. Let your memories be gardens, not graves. You can carry them. You can tend to them. But not every visitor needs to walk through. 5. the full extent of your financial plans. Boundaries are a blessing. Meet Bernard, age 85. Bernard had 3 grandchildren, bright, kind, curious. They adored him, and he adored them. One afternoon during a family barbecue, his eldest grandson, Luke, sat beside him and asked, "Grandpa, do you think you'll leave us anything? Like for college or stuff like that?" It was innocent, curious, but Bernard just smiled, took a sip of his lemonade and said, "I'll leave behind a whole lot of love and some pretty great stories." So, why he chose to stay quiet? Bernard had a will, a solid estate plan. Everything was in order. But he knew this. Money complicates what love simplifies. When people know too much, dynamics change. Every thank you might come with a hint of expectation. Every phone call could feel like fishing. Every kindness, conditional. And he didn't want that. "I want to be remembered for how I made people feel," Bernard told me, "not for what I did or didn't give them." The lesson in here: generosity is beautiful when it's free, but when you give too many details, you invite too many opinions. You risk turning genuine relationships into financial forecasts. Your legacy isn't numbers, it's nurture. It's the way your granddaughter still keeps your handwritten birthday cards. It's the Sunday mornings you spent telling your stories. It's the scent of your cologne, the sound of your laugh, the way your hugs made people feel safe. That's what lasts. Be wise, be prepared, be clear, but be quiet beyond necessity. Because some things are more powerful when they're revealed with love, not expected with pressure. Leave a will that reflects your values. Leave a legacy that reflects your heart. And remember, boundaries are not barriers, they are blessings. They protect your dignity, your intentions, and your relationships. And the last, live with gentle strength. Let me tell you about a man named Arthur. He was 88, a former teacher, the kind of person who kept his words folded like origami, precise, meaningful, and rare. When his granddaughter asked him one day why he didn't speak more about his thoughts, his past, or his finances, Arthur simply smiled and said, "Some things grow more beautiful when they're kept warm and close, not wide and loud." That's gentle strength. And in many ways, that's what this chapter of life is about. Not proving yourself, not performing, but choosing how you protect your peace. So here we are. You've walked with me through 5 powerful truths. The importance of keeping your finances private, the wisdom in not broadcasting every health update, the relief of stepping out of family tension, the grace in reframing your past without regret, the dignity of leaving a legacy without expectations. None of these are about withdrawing from the world. They're about returning to yourself. You've spent decades holding space for others. Now you're allowed to create sacred space for you. Moreover, meet Della, age 84. Della was a seamstress her whole life. She stitched wedding gowns, baptism dresses, and more prom hems than she could count. When she retired, people still brought her fabric, but she no longer said yes. She would thank them, smile softly, and close the door. One day I asked her why. Her voice was gentle. "Because I spent my life stitching things for everyone else. Now I just want to patch up my own quiet." Della wasn't bitter. She wasn't angry. She was just clear. And when you are clear about what matters, you don't need to defend it. So, gentle strength is not softness. It's sovereignty. You don't have to announce your boundaries. You don't have to explain why you said no. You don't have to justify why you're not going to Thanksgiving dinner or why you didn't answer the 3rd phone call today. You simply honor what is sacred, still, and yours. That's gentle strength. It's not the roar of youth. It's the hum of knowing exactly who you are. And here's what I want you to know. You are allowed to live in that space now. You don't need to overextend, over-explain, or overgive. You don't have to drain yourself to prove your usefulness. You are not here to be accessible at every moment. You are here to be aligned with peace, with simplicity, with freedom. Privacy isn't secrecy, it's stewardship. It's not about hiding things. It's about choosing what deserves light and what deserves the quiet shelter of your heart. Imagine your thoughts as a garden. Some flowers bloom in the sun, others only thrive under moonlight. Not everything is meant for public view. Some things are meant to be held, watered, and kept between you and your own soul. As we bring this message to a close, I want you to pause. Not just pause your screen, but pause inside. Take a breath, a real one. Breathe in the years you've lived, the laughter, the pain, the sacrifices, the joys. Breathe out the noise that says you still owe the world an explanation, because you don't. You owe yourself tenderness. You owe yourself truth. You owe yourself a life where you can sit with a cup of tea, look out the window and know, I am at peace and I protected it. Let's try to ask, which of these 5 boundaries spoke the loudest to your heart? Comment below. 1, if you're choosing to protect your finances. 2, if you're setting boundaries around your health updates. 3, if you're stepping away from family drama. 4, if you're choosing to keep your regrets gentle and silent. 5, if you're guarding your legacy with dignity. We read every comment because here at Dear Seniors Life, we believe your wisdom matters. Your voice isn't fading, it's deepening. If this message touched you, share it with someone you love, someone who may need to hear that they don't need to say it all, that they're not alone in choosing silence, that privacy is power, and that dignity doesn't demand a spotlight. If you haven't yet, subscribe, because this space, this community, is built for you, not to instruct, but to remind that your age is not the end of your story. It's the start of your simplest, quietest, most beautiful chapter yet. There's one last thing I want to leave you with. You are still the author. Every morning, you wake up holding the pen. You choose what goes on the page. Some days it will be busy. Some days still. Some pages will be shared. Others will be for your eyes only. And all of it, every bit of it, is sacred. So live with gentle strength. Say less if it protects you. Speak only when it serves peace. And walk forward with your head high, your heart full, and your secrets safe in your soul. We're rooting for you with all our heart, Dear Seniors Life.